Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the funeral service of Barry E. Hershman. Rabbi Jeffrey Weil will be officiating. We welcome those of you who are joining us via live stream. For those of you who are here, please take a moment to be sure that your cell phones have been turned off, not to disturb the sacred funeral ceremony. At this time, I invite the immediate mourners, the whole family, just stand together, and the rabbi is going to approach three children to perform the ceremony of Kriya, of tearing of the ribbon.
I need a folder. Thank you. As David Jacobson mentioned, the act of Kriya, the ancient ritual of Kriya, it means tearing. And the mourners who are present, three of you have the Kriya ribbons. In the Bible, when something calamitous would happen, something shocking, something sad, our biblical forebears would do this Kriya. They would tear their garments, exposing, in a sense, the wound inside, their sadness in their hearts. And that's what you were doing with this act of tearing. The blessing, and I'll approach you in a moment, the blessing acknowledges God as the Dayan Ha'emet, the judge of truth. When sometimes it's a very difficult thing to accept this theology that God is the judge of truth, even during times of great sadness. But our tradition guides us in that direction. So I'll approach you now for the blessing and act of Kriya. Adonai, ma adam v'teta ehu, ben enosh v'techash vehu. Adam lehevel dama. The words of the psalmist. Adonai, eternal God, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you would even take note of us? We are all of us just a breath. Our days are a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning it shoots up and is renewed, and in the evening it fades and withers. Such is our lives. But God, you cause all of us to return unto dust, saying, Shuvu b'nei Adam, return, O mortal ones. Would that we were wise. Would that we understood whither we go from here, for when we die, we carry nothing with us, not our riches, not our glory. But God, you say, Shmor tam u're'ei yashar. Mark the wholehearted, behold the upright. Those are the ones who shall find shalom, who shall find peace in the end. Friends, we gather today to remember one who was surely tam v'yashar. He was wholehearted, he was upright, he was generous, selfish, a mensch, truly. Barry Hershman. His memory for blessing. Our sacred scriptures, thankfully, have something appropriate for all the times of our lives, the happy times and the sad times as well. And at times like this, we recite the 23rd Psalm, a psalm of King David. I'll read it first in Hebrew, and then we can read it together in English. It is in our handouts. Adonai ro'i lo aksar, binot desha yarbitzeni, al mei menochot nahaleni nafshi yashavev. Yancheni v'maglei tzedek l'ma'an shemo. Gam ki elech b'geit salmavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Shiftecha mishantecha Hema inachamuni, ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorai, tishanta b'shemen roshi kosi ravaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirtefuni kol yemei chaya, v'shafti b'veit Adonai la'orach yamim. We read together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The third chapter of the biblical book Kohelet, or in English Ecclesiastes, also presents this idea similar to the blessing that we did for Korea, that there's somehow a purpose for everything that unfolds, everything that happens under the sun. And that too is a difficult thing to accept, really, because you look around this complicated world of ours and you say, like, is there really a reason for this or a purpose for that? But again, our tradition guides us in that way to understand that everything is unfolding somehow in ways that we can't always understand with a purpose. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot that which is planted, a time to tear down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to grieve, a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, a time when we must refrain from our embraces, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to discard, a time to tear, a time to sow, a time for silence and a time for speaking. And so this is an appropriate time for speaking words in memory of tribute and honor of Barry Hershman. As we read in Torah now, every week in Torah we make our way, every week on Shabbat we make our way through the Torah, Genesis through Deuteronomy, and then we start all over again. And right now we're at a point where the Israelites are in movement. They're like in constant motion. They're in the wilderness of Sinai. We call it, it's the Midbar. The book of Numbers is where this is happening. They're wandering there for 40 years. The English name is Numbers. The Hebrew name is Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness. And that's where they are actively wandering through that wilderness. Throughout the years of wandering, Moses, the leader, obviously, had one primary desire, and it was not always easy, but that primary desire was to keep this fractious nation unified, to keep them together, to make them feel like they were one great tribe, one big family, even in the midst of all that motion, all that activity. Doing so, helping them understand that they were one people, would enable them to succeed and to reach their destination, which of course is the Promised Land. It was not always an easy thing to do, but Moses did it. Barry Hershman shared that desire, even in the midst of a lot of movement as well. He shared that desire for his people to make sure that everyone in his family was united, would be together, would get together, and would be provided for, that all of you would succeed. He wanted that all of you, in a sense, would reach your own promised land. He did everything in his power to bring this wide tribe stretched out here on this front row from one end to the other, to bring this wide tribe, this family together. He loved doing so. He did not lead you through the wilderness of Sinai, literally, but he brought all of you together in fantastic ways nonetheless, voyages, celebrations, and more. Barry also, like the Israelites, was a man of motion, in motion. He went out, he sallied forth, he ventured forth, he created adventures, but regardless of his personal, literal destination at any particular time, Barry Hershman's underlying and overarching motivation and momentum, his destination and his chief goal was always the benefit of this family. That's who he was. He was a Chicagoan, raised in Franklin Park, the child of Seymour and Arlene, younger brother to Ellen. Seymour, his dad, was a strong presence, a powerful, even austere figure, which in a way set the tone for the home life. Barry studied, he went on to Bradley University. He was deeply involved in his frat, Pi Kappa Alpha, serving as its president even. He would remain in contact with his fraternity brothers throughout the years ahead. He served in the Army Reserves, and during the early years of raising his own family in his family life, as he and Carol were raising Lori, Scott, and Jody, Barry continued to satisfy his military obligations in the reserves. He was good with numbers, and he first did accounting, but he soon joined the family business, the currency exchange business that he was involved in with his cousin, Alan. He was a work-driven man and successful, Barry was. It's an ongoing family business, as you know, of course, and very successful one. At one time, they had more than 200 locations in the western suburbs and in Florida. Barry was, for sure, a loving father, and he demonstrated his love and his commitment and his devotion as a dad through his deeds. There was never any doubt about his love for his 3 children. He was present, involved both at home and through the 3 of your activities. Yes, some might have found that his snoring at Indian princesses and Indian Scout overnights was a bit too much of a presence, but that very powerful snoring was a measure of very obvious love, that he was there. He was indeed, as I mentioned before, a man of action and movement. He had a deep desire he was like propelled outward to go and to do some more. And so he did. He traveled China, Dubai, Philippines, Vietnam, elsewhere. He even undertook the massive journey to Antarctica at one point. He owned boats. He skied the Swiss Alps. He was passionate about sports and attended games, lots of them, including the championship bulls in the 1990s. And he moved from here to there, spending time in homes, the Dominican Republic, Boca, Lake Tahoe, of course here in Chicagoland. But Barry also benefited from and really appreciated stabilizing influences in his life. Barbara, who was his fiancée, was such an influence until her sad passing. His consistent and ongoing stabilizing influence, his touchstone again was the family. He was, throughout the years, just a beloved leader of the family. Beloved father-in-law to Gary, Heather, and Nico, and to Marshall. He was a besotted grandfather as well, present and playful and funny with his understated one-liners, his quips. He'd carry his grandchildren when you guys were little, obviously, on his shoulders. He'd shoot hoops. He was a beloved pop-up to Zachary, Chad, Cameron, Callie, and Alexa, Amanda, Samantha, and Abby, Alyssa, Taylor, and Peyton. He was also beloved by their significant others, Megan, Chrissia, Parker, Doug, and Josh. And his chief happiness, again, was when everyone was together for special family occasions, simchas, including with Carol and Tom, with whom Barry remained close over the course of the years. There was just a lot to this man. He was like a manifold kind of man. There was just a lot to him. Career, sports, exotic adventures, boating, Bronson, Charles Bronson, Eastwood, Clint, exotic vacations, the homes, and so forth. But the hub, those are like the spokes. But the hub was always consistent, and it was sure, and it was true. It was this group, those of you who sit in this front row. He was always there for you, absolutely kind, completely 100% generous, loving, loyal, and supportive, desiring nothing greater than for you to be there, present for each other as he was for all of you. Our sages taught us something both simple and profound, kind of obvious, yet profound. They taught, may you mourn at the time of mourning, and may you rejoice at the time of rejoicing. Seems so obvious, obviously. But it's relevant for times like this, of course. You all mourn, of course, and your sadness is acute. It is real. You feel the loss, this place in your lives once filled, now missing. Your lives will be different now. That's reason to mourn and to grieve. But may you also rejoice, as our sages were implying. May you also rejoice for his successes, and rejoice over his great kindness. Rejoice for his menschlichkeit, being a mensch, just a truly good person. Rejoice for his always consistent, always reliable generosity. And rejoice for yourselves for having been so fortunate to have had such a man in your lives. May all that was good in Barry's life serve as a dugma, an abiding and inspiring example for all of you. Zichrono livracha. May Barry Hershman's memory always be for blessing. Amen. It's my honor now to call forward his three children, Lori, Scott, and Jody, to share words about their father.
Here you go. I'll try to stand here. Thank you all for being here today to celebrate the life of my dad. Okay, this is hard. I'm not the greatest public speaker, but today, in honor of my dad, I have to be. Anyone that knew my dad knows he was the most generous, selfless person you could ever meet. He never thought twice about helping someone, anyone, family, a friend, or even a stranger. Out of his three children, I was definitely the pain in the ass. I was.
No one's arguing.
My mom, who couldn't be here today because she can't travel from Florida, but she would definitely agree. I always gave them a very hard time. My brother and my sister were the easier ones. But even so, my dad always put up with me. He loved me deeply, and he made sure I knew it. I always pushed him to the limit and thought he was above all. He was almost inhuman, and he could do anything. And guess what? He did. He gave his kids and his grandkids the best of everything. He made sure we were all taken care of. No questions asked. His love and his generosity are part of his legacy. And that legacy is going to live on with all of us. My dad wasn't someone who wore his emotions on his sleeve, but we all knew how proud he was of all of us. You could see it in his eyes, in his quiet presence, in the way he carried himself when he was around his family. He spoke in this strong, monotone voice. I'll book all the flights, Lori. Don't worry about it. I still imitate him all the time, and I'm going to remember that forever. But don't get me wrong.
You're not going to say that.
Yeah. But don't get me wrong.
I already yelled at her.
I'm getting yelled at for some of the things I have in here, and he's not supposed to be
Shouldn't have
up here.
Shouldn't have looked ahead. Okay, go ahead.
But don't get me wrong, my dad was also very funny. I'll never forget the time Jody and I were help cleaning out his apartment in Chicago, and we found a whole suitcase of sex toys.
That's the part I was talking about.
That was my dad. He was a total playboy, and we all knew it, and we loved him for it. He was a stud in his day, and he lived life, and he loved to have fun. It's hard for me to put into words what he meant to us. He wasn't just a father or a grandfather. He was the rock of our family. He was my rock, a steady, loving presence who made everyone else okay. He gave so much of himself to us, never asking for anything in return. He didn't just provide, he poured his heart and soul into our family. He was a mensch. My dad loves sports, and he wasn't just a fan. He was a super fan. Basketball, doubles, baseball, the Cubs. He knew every stat, every player, and he could predict winners like he had a crystal ball. You know, one of the funniest things about my dad, and there were many, was watching this very tall, not so limber man try and get into a car. It didn't matter if it was a Tesla or a Corvette or an Aston Martin, because it seemed like he bought a new car every other month. He had one method: head first. I swear he would fold himself like a beach chair with absolutely no flexibility involved. It was like watching someone try to do yoga without ever actually learning a single pose. His legs were out, his legs out, his arms somewhere, head diving in like he was about to swim laps. And the best part, he did it with total confidence, like it was the absolute normal way to enter a vehicle. No hesitation, just head in and hope the rest followed. Sometimes it did, and sometimes it didn't. He would always hit his head on the top of the car getting in, something like that. But that was my dad. He did things in his own way, with no apologies, and usually with a big grin. He was built to make us laugh, love us deeply, and somehow always have the coolest cars that made getting in and out of them an adventure on their own. But, and it's a big but, his greatest joy was his family, especially his grandkids. He was the best pop-pop to all of my 5 kids. Whether it was showing up to Grandparents' Day, going to one of their birthdays, or just sitting down and playing with them, he was there with a big smile and a warm heart. Zachary, Chad, Cameron, Callie, Alexa. He loved you more than you could ever imagine, and you had a very special place in his heart. He made sure to give you every opportunity to advance in life, and that is what made him such a special man. And then there were those dinners with me and my husband, Gary, sometimes with the kids and sometimes just the 3 of us. He looked forward so much to them. He'd be waiting outside, excited as ever. His favorite spots, Wildfire and Rosebud. And of course, his staple, Portillo's. Those dinners weren't just meals. They were nights that he so looked forward to, and we all had a blast. He traveled the world. He loved adventure, his cruises, exploring new countries. The man knew how to live. He believed in living life to the fullest. He never needed the spotlight. He let his actions speak for themselves. Again, he was truly selfless. He loved his movies, especially with popcorn, but the issue was half the bucket ended up all over him and his couch. But you could tell how happy he was. He was always the best dressed. Even in Beaver Creek, with that cowboy hat and his big belt buckle, you couldn't miss him. He was bigger than life. We'll miss him so much. We're going to miss the way he made us feel safe and how he gave us such a sense of security without ever needing to say much. Thank you, Dad, for everything. We will carry you in our hearts and our memories forever. Dad, thank you for your patience, your quiet wisdom, and for showing us how to live life to the fullest. We love you so much, and we will miss you, and we're going to carry you with us always. You will always be my idol. And again, you are always going to be my rock. Rest in peace, Dad. I love you.
Stand. We have time left.
Yes.
So I was told I couldn't tell a joke about how my dad loved parties so much, especially bachelor parties. He even threw himself 3 of them. But since Lori opened the door, I might as well run through it. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. It means a lot to us. You know, it looks like the 9 o'clock service time made some people say, I'll just go to the house for Shiva. But we know who's on the A list now. It's you guys. So it's really moving to see everybody here. Thank you, Rabbi Weil, for doing such a wonderful job of telling my dad's story. I'd just like to spend a few moments sharing some of my favorite memories. The moments to me that defined the kind of father he was. It's hard going after you. You know, my dad passed on his love of sports by taking me what can only be described as an obnoxious amount of basketball and baseball games. We rarely missed a DePaul game at the Rosemont Horizon. That was back when they were good. We went to countless White Sox and Cubs games, and we went to, during the Jordan era, we had season tickets, and that's something I'll always treasure. I don't think he was a big fan of the cold, because somehow we never made it to a Bears or Blackhawks game. I made up for that later, though, so don't worry. At the time, I just assumed that's what dads and sons did. It wasn't until I got older that I realized that I was very lucky. I can't see anymore. Okay. We shared some unforgettable moments. NBA Finals games, the '83 White Sox season, even a 1982 World Series game in Milwaukee. We did some pretty incredible stuff together. I'll carry those memories with me forever. After my parents separated when I was 12, my dad made sure to still spend meaningful time with us. Weekend sleepovers at his bachelor pads. He moved kind of frequently, as you may have known, and he would give us tours of the apartment complex. And he was probably only about 40-ish, and at the time I was like, these people must wonder, like, what's this old guy doing here? And now I realized he was in his prime. I cannot see through the tears. Okay. He always made the effort. One of the greatest gifts I had was working in the same office as my dad for many years. Nearly every morning, or at the end of the day, I'd stop by his office. We'd catch up, talk about work, sports, family. Usually he'd be looking at me talking while completing a huge paper spreadsheet on his desk with one hand while furiously punching numbers into the adding machine with his other hand. He could crunch numbers with the best of them. Sadly, I only inherited a fraction of his math skills, but I get by. Dad, wherever you are, I hope you're able to get a tea time this close to Father's Day. I know how hard it was when you couldn't golf anymore. I'm not sure I ever saw you happier than when you had a great drive. You'd pick up your tea, stroll to the cart, and mutter with that signature tone, right down the middle, right down the middle. Dad, I hope every putt is a one putt in heaven. Which would be great because you never did figure out the whole putting out of order thing. I love you, Dad. We'll never forget you.
Okay, you got it.
Okay. Not sure how I'm going to do this. Not sure I'm going to get through this, but I have reinforcements just in case, so please bear with me. There are not enough thank yous for what my dad has done for us and others. He will always be the most generous man I will ever know.
Good.
My early memories with my dad really started after my parents separated. I was 10, and we spent a lot of time together. He made sure to move close, and we had weekly Wednesday night dinners, mostly at Pepper Plum's,
I couldn't remember the name of it.
our favorite restaurant. He would take me and my friends to the circus every year. We would go on his boat, where we nearly died every time. He was never good at driving, let alone a boat. But he did it, and we always got home safe somehow. He introduced me to Garibaldi's, where I found my favorite tuna sandwich, and I still go there to this day. When he moved into his first townhome, he wanted to make me a room, so he bought me this pink neon sign that said Jody's room. And I thought it was the greatest thing, and I'm actually really still upset I still don't have it. I can't tell you how many people have said to me how fond they were of my father. He one time was moving, which he did often, and gave all his old shirts to his doorman. And when I met the doorman, he said, "Your dad is the most wonderful man." This guy was thrilled and probably the best dressed doorman in the city. I was recently in the hospital. And when I woke up from going through something awful, my dad was right there by my side. I actually couldn't see well at first, but I could see him watching me to make sure I was okay. He always was very concerned about me, and I will miss him checking in. I know he knows I'm okay. Well, not right now, but I will be. Thank you to my brother and my sister for taking such good care of our dad during these difficult years. My brother took him to all his doctor's appointments, got his medications, bought his food, his clothes, the list goes on. He was lucky to have you by his side. And my sister would fly in whenever we needed her and raised hell to get my dad whatever he needed. He may not have liked it at times, but in the end, he was very happy. I will miss calling him, texting him, taking him to dinner, and checking on him. I'm glad I got to spend time with him these past years back in Chicago. Anytime I get Love's yogurt, Dad, I'm going to think of you. I know you will be watching over me, Nico, and the girls. I love you forever. And happy early Father's Day.
Thank you, Lori, Scott, and Jody. Those are very touching, beautiful, humorous tributes, so thank you so much. Leida hi reshit uftira tachlit hachaim kamasahem kahalicha k'tzmicha mishalav l'shalav. Birth is a beginning, death a destination, but life is a journey, an adventure, a going and a growing from stage to stage. And now the life journey of Barry Hershman has now reached its final destination. And so, O God, into your care we entrust his spirit, for you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Sustain us, O God, that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead for us, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, O God, will be with us as a loving friend in whom we put our trust. You, O God, are the light of our lives and our hope in eternity. We now please rise for the El Malei Rachamim, the memorial prayer. This prayer will conclude the service here in the chapel. Mourner's Kaddish will be recited at graveside. El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezohar Rakia Masirim, Et Nishmat HaYikar Shalanu, Shahalach La'olamo. Baal HaRachamim Yastirehu, Beseter Kenafav La'olamim, V'yitzor B'tzor HaChaim Et Nishmato. Adonai Chunachalato V'yanuach B'shalom, Al Mishkavo, B'nomar. Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to the holy and the pure who shine like the light of the heavens, to Barry E. Hershman, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence and within the shadow of your wings. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And we say, Amen. Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, the interment service will continue at Memorial Park Cemetery, located at 9900 Grosse Pointe Road here in Skokie. The family will be together at the Hershman residence at 19 Sussex Circle in Vernon Hills following the interment till 8 p.m. Memorial contributions to the American Diabetes Association, the Barry E. Hershman Memorial Fund. In this specific situation, typically we would have a mailing address, but this can only be done online, and if you go to the website, you can just click it and make a donation, and that's also for information for the people that are joining us online. For those of you who will be driving to the cemetery, the procession will be forming in our parking lot. Please obtain an orange safety funeral sticker to place on the right-hand side of your windshield. Have your bright lights and hazard lights on at all times. For additional measures of safety, we will be providing a car in the back of the procession to hopefully keep other cars from entering the procession. Please use your horn liberally as you're going through the intersections. Please do not speak or text on your cellular phone while driving to the cemetery. This time I invite everyone to please rise and stand in place as I invite his grandchildren to come forward and to escort him to the hearse. Paul? Return to your promise.